Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather, a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present.
Amazing. A very pre-warmed up welcome to Oracle Mountain, everyone. I am joined by the lovely and light bringing Kirstie Lauren today, who is a multidimensional light language channeler and activator. I really enjoy Kirstie's energy. She always brings like a feeling of us lifting up into the same kind of cool work that she's doing. So I'm really happy that Kirstie is here today on Oracle Mountain. And I say that we're super warmed up because we've been chatting and giggling away for about an hour. So you're getting oracles really already loosened up here for this chat. And Kirstie, I didn't tell you this, but we're like over 50 episodes now for Oracle Mountain Chats. So I'm going to throw it up on some podcast sites and things like that as well. Because I just think, wow, there's so many amazing speakers coming through the OracleFest sphere that just to listen to them on a track like that would be so nice. So, anyways, that's fun.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome,
Okay.
welcome.
Congratulations. Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
having
you.
me.
The milestone kind of just flew me by, and I was typing it in to the file names as I was like exporting, uploading the videos, and I went, "Oh my gosh, are we already at 50? That was wild! Like, how did that all happen? You know, we've only been a year in in growing, so yeah, it's amazing."
Yeah, it definitely needs to go on different places.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah, yes, yes.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yes,
yes,
yes, yes.
yes. And I know that you're part of Oracle Fest because you were at one of our earlier podium events, but this is the first time you're joining us for the big Oracle Fest online, which is next weekend already, January 30th to February 2nd. And if you want to share a little bit about what you're bringing or what you, yeah, why you're here, why you joined, that'd be awesome.
All right. So everything that I do, I like to teach coming from the heart and from the higher heart chakra and really activating um, that spark and keys and codes. So a lot of what I do really centers around the higher heart chakra and love. And so you invited me as the love pillar or the pillar of love for that particular event. And why I'm here is because that was exactly the energy that I felt when I got introduced to you and your events. And that is actually, I feel like it's a very, it's like a diamond because there's a lot of people that do these events and there are not many that are like so focused on like the heart and the intention behind it. And you can really feel that. So that's something that like I can feel. navigate through a lot of like clairsentience as well, and there's just so much love coming from what you do, from your events, and that's just going to spread like wildfire. So that's why I'm here.
I
For
love it.
this one, yeah, it's just, and so for everybody listening or watching, um, like that intuition, that spark there, like that's a key, because that opens many doors. So there's a lot of love here in every single one of the speakers, and I think all the speakers can feel that, and they know that's going to amplify too. So um I definitely got like a hell yes for being a part of it. And there's a lot of keys and codes that people can get from from the chats and from the events, from everything. So, and I'm really excited for when you decide to do it in person as well. That's going to be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So for this one, I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into we're going to work with the higher heart chakra, but I'm also going to be in India when I do this. So there will also be keys and codes from India, which is a deep connection to me because I had a couple previous lives in India, and it's a place that I'm very, very deeply connected to, and um, I'm really excited. It worked out perfect timing that I'll be in India right when this happens. So it's going to be the biggest channeling I think that I have done yet. So I'm excited. I'm really
Oof,
excited
I
about
just
it.
have like this whole body wave just came through me when you said that, because I totally believe you. And I think like part of that is your own connection to what you've already experienced in the Oracle Mountain field. So I hope actually any new speakers also can see this and know that this is, I like to not have really detailed titles and specific clear thoughts of what every speaker is going to bring before we get there, but more like broad subjects. So you were part of the passion podium, and it was like heart activation, like be here, activate your heart. Anything you do in and around that is totally welcome, right? I'm not going to get super specific, like so that you can do da 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 da, because actually honoring the oracle within every speaker is also honoring the idea that you might come and say, I was going to talk about this. Now I also want to talk about this whole other thing that just came to me last night in a dream, right? And that's what I want. I want like this magic, open, creative space for all attendees, but also the speakers, to not pigeonhole anyone, because we're not very good at being pigeonholed anyway, any of the spiritual speakers. We don't fit inside the boxes. That's the whole point.
Yeah, how many times has that happened when someone's like, I was going to talk about this, but this is now what I'm going to talk
Yeah,
about?
there's no point in having, I mean, it's okay if someone wants to get into the detail of their theme and their talk, but I imagine as we keep going, it will really more be about like this person's bringing the pillar, like the pillar of the heart. And I saw Kirstie and her energy and immediately felt it's heart based. This is what I need you for. And I think we share that kind of, I guess, the mission, which is to stay and to keep exploring that space. I love the higher heart chakra. For anyone who doesn't know, do you want to share a little bit about like what the higher heart chakra even is? People are like, oh my gosh, I just wrapped around the first chakras. Like, what's this other added special bonus chakra that they're talking about?
Well, oh my gosh. Well, first of all, not many people know that it's really there, and lots of, and this happened to me too when I first started like opening the doors of this wonderful metaphysical world. I always thought that it was like channeling from it's just from the crown and up, and then realizing that everything is actually from within, and then deeper there's actually this love that I don't know. I This love that maybe or you have not experienced. Maybe you felt this deep unconditional love from maybe a mother or a father, or perhaps I mean, the closest thing I could say is like an animal or a pet or something. um, Relationship doesn't really quite cover it, but feeling like this source, like love, like as if you were right in with source, like before you were born, like something that just breaks anything that you could possibly imagine. of what that love is, and then realizing that we think it's outside of ourselves, but really it's inside. And so for me, going into the higher heart chakra is tapping into that love. Like that's really what that is, and realizing that all the keys, all the knowledge and everything is from that place. And it's like kind of once you feel that or kind of experience it, you want to kind of really always try to be in that. And obviously we're in a duality planet, so there's, and with all these different energies, but it's really about like going in within and getting that and feeling that love and that spark, and that can come through like purpose or what you're meant to be doing with your mission. And so having people experience that. So I kind of come with like the frequencies, and then people unlock the doors. So everybody's able to access it. It's just maybe you haven't heard of it. But now, even just having this conversation, people are like, I'm going to Google higher heart chakra and learn more.
Right. That was my hope.
Yeah.
That was my secret mission here. I'm like, go do your homework and then you'll be ready for Kirstie's session.
Yeah. Like, what was your experience with that? Like, I'm sure you've had.
Well, yeah. So my business, my healing business is called Heart's Frontier. So you were talking to me before we got started as well about like this kind of heart energy. And I agree that OracleFest, because it comes through me also, you know, I had to clear the way for it to be like, here's what's on my heart, everybody. And, you know, keep talking from the heart, because I think that's what translates to all of us. And I wouldn't want to have a business from another place. So the Heart's Frontier and expanding beyond our heart, to me, is like, that's the projection field I want to be looking at when I'm looking at what happens in my life. I want to feel more and more emotionally like in love with my life and what I'm doing, and everyone around me as well. And when I was teaching intuition development, I would teach the chakra system as a way of understanding and reading what might be happening inside of ourselves. I'd teach like pendulum chakra readings just so people could start, you know, getting a regular check-in on their energies. And I loved it. Like pendulums are so fun to me. And I love like blowing minds with, oh my gosh, amazing. We can see it, you know, clear as day. And then I started noticing so much more. I wanted to be reading a little more detail in the higher heart for people. And so I started adding that into the teachings, because I think for a lot of empaths and sensitive people, this higher heart is a place that's often very much speaking to us. And the heart doesn't quite capture it all, and the throat doesn't quite capture it all. But I almost see it as the bridge between the two, that allows us to also expand into the spirit. You know, it's like the higher heart is like the spirit of the heart versus the experience of the heart. The experience of the heart to me is much more like relational, like our heart chakra and our, you know, we hug each other and our heart chakras are like speaking, and that's such a lovely thing. And it's relational in the emotional bodies. But it's almost like when we rise that up into the spirit, it's about here. And then when we get honest with ourselves internally, truly, that's because we've crossed into like the throat threshold, if we're looking for that upwards enlightenment, which, you know, it's all cyclical and happening all at once. But let's, for, you know, the clear example, speaking about it this way. And so then it's almost like the bridge to our deeper spirit connection, and trusting and knowing it in ourselves and feeling that, that sometimes gets missed when we only go to heart to throat. So for me, it became really beneficial especially when working with empathic and sensitive people. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's
it
beautiful.
is. Yeah. And it's a feeling too. A lot of people touch more so like higher heart versus their actual heart when they're trying to connect internally. So it's kind of interesting. The more you dive in, I mean, go on your little rabbit hole dives here, everyone, as you're listening, because I think it is a nice space to connect to.
Yeah, I think there's a key that I got a while ago with like, you know, for people that may be clairaudient, maybe you hear you know, your guides, or maybe you hear certain things, and then it's like, okay, listen beyond the ears. Okay, listen beyond the mind. Listen beyond the body. And then get really still, and then you'll hear the higher heart speak, but it's in a way that you've never heard. And then you're like, oh, once I hear that, you're like, okay, that's, you know, like but it's the opposite of what you think. Like listen, like start listening outside of your ears, because the way that we've been taught in our day to day is to kind of listen ears or listen, you know, and then just keep expanding from there. And you can go for so many different things, but that's when I was like, oh, that's where the higher heart chakra is talking. So yeah, that was an experience because I'm very clairaudient as well. Like clairsentient, clairaudient were the two main ones that came up for me at first, and so then it was like getting past all like the noise and stuff. So that one
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. Well, clairaudience is interesting because it was one of the later ones that became more obvious. Like it wasn't one of the early ones for me. And it was a lot more alarming just to suddenly be like hearing a bunch more information. Did you find it overwhelming at all when your senses were turning on, I suppose, it was a gradual.
There had been times when I did, but I noticed a correlation between if there was like some heavier energies or like when I went through like the learning of going through the muck of stuff and learning like, okay, maybe this isn't the voice that I'm supposed to be. And that's when it was like expanding. And then realizing like, just because you can hear something, because there's a lot of voices that can talk to you, really, if you want to break that down. But just because you hear something doesn't mean that it's good like necessarily, but you can feel it. You can feel. So it's still clairaudient, but you can feel if that's good. And then when you start diving that back down into the heart, you then can like navigate that way. So it's like what did I start calling it? It's like a feel see. That's what I started.
Yes.
The clairvoyance came later for me. And so I noticed that when I feel and I see. But if I didn't feel see, sometimes I would see. Like you got to tap into the love first to see what's going on. If that
Absolutely.
makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, it really does.
Is that way with you?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was, you put it so brilliantly because for me at that time, I was in a very dense state, feeling as though I had lost many parts of myself, even after having regained some of them on my healing journey, which I think a lot of people don't recognize that pain, I think, which is like once you've already started on healing or spiritual expansion and then you have a deep like hit, it almost feels like you lost your progress, like the thing you had worked so hard to kind of like break through. And I think that happens to a lot of people. And that's where like a real deeper doubt, some people might call that dark night of the soul or things like that. But like it really just was a time where I was serving so many other people and not myself. And so I felt quite empty and there was a lot of dense energies in and around me. And I really didn't have tools or support or, a feeling of pure love to help me kind of explain or even just rest in life at that time. And I remember it was like my oven fan had this frequency where if I was listening to it, suddenly I felt like these like, I could only liken it to like Harry Potter Dementors. The energy of it, I was like, I don't like whatever frequency this is opening and I don't know what to do. And I would just lie down and go, that was scary, and like, I remember this one time, it was so sad. Like my ex showed up at the door and I wasn't like meant to be in their life at this time, but they showed up at my door and I was like, I need you to turn the fan off because I had no ability to process like them arriving and that sound. And I was just there cooking my dinner scared. Like it was such an odd experience because I was so sensitive and also so depleted at the same time. Right. And so like a lot of what I got out of teaching empath energetics for years, like after that time, for teaching empath energetics, it was like from those types of experiences where I thought, well, if I wasn't depleted, I would be able to like sense, discern, feel, right? My feelings were just, we don't got any left. You've poured them out all over the floor and given them to everyone else and they didn't give them back. And now look at you, it was kind of where I felt at that time. And so it's really like the more that we can activate ourselves and pour energy into our own, really listening to that own inner space means feeling and means sensing, means being in your own body and not elsewhere, feeling, sensing all out in the world, as a lot of sensitive beings are, I have multiple clients where I'm like, come back down to earth. Where are you?
Yeah,
like, why are you floating
down?
Yeah, get down here. We have a session.
Where are you?
And it's cute. I mean, they know that I'm like joking about it, but then they go, oh, Yeah, you're right. Like they realize, oh, wow, we've been living in this sort of kind of a foggy, floaty space. And, I notice it a lot more. I know that we want to do some like forecasting and sort of predictive looking at the year ahead here. And I mean, looking at where we are currently in January 2026, the climate for spiritual people right now is quite challenging. If you're paying attention to like literally any media and news source, because you'll think about something that feels so dense, and then it's so natural for our spirits to kind of float on up and out and try not to feel all of the density, like because it is quite overwhelming. And so I imagine a lot of people are having something similar to this experience of depleted, whether it's because you are overgiving in a connection or you're driving yourself into your work and forgetting about yourself, your feelings, your body, or if it's watching so much news that it feels like it takes away from how you feel in your own day to day. Then I think a lot of people need these tools, like really, truly. Even if we've had them, you might have forgotten how good it feels just to be in the experience of good energy, which is why I think something so special as OracleFest. The big OracleFest happens in winter on purpose because we're inside and it's dark time. We need it a little more. We need a bit more light just as we're coming back out into the world, right? This is our seeds, germinating the seed season.
Yeah, and it's when we can all gather together, like when, yeah, I know. That's
Yeah.
like that's a good time to plan it too.
Yeah. Well, and it works, I think, too, in many ways, like the wheel of the year and how we celebrate in this time. It is an inward time. And so, yes, even though Oracle Fest can be a social and community connector, it can also be a thing where you sit alone in your room and you receive from these different speakers and it's all for you and you enjoy the experience and you take your little silent times and moments that you want to go off camera and just process. You're welcome to, right? Like it's not a high pressure kind of environment, and it's not like you have to go out and travel to be a part of it, and it's not like asking for more energy output than we might have in the winter season. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're in
Well,
Canada, I mean, so-called Canada, I mean, everyone, they're predicting it's like the coldest time. I just saw a thing before we started this call that was like, they're predicting cold temperature. It's Canada is going to be like the coldest place on earth this weekend or next week or something.
well, I am glad that I am heading to India.
I'm glad I'm in Madeira. And both of us travel
Ah,
quite a lot, so we know the feeling also of like energy that sits with land. And yeah, there's maybe reasons for you going to India and reasons for me being in Madeira at this time, to be able to hold the frequency we need to without all the distraction as well.
yeah, and it's interesting. Like I feel like I don't know, how do you feel every time you go back to I've had interesting experiences the last three times. Well, no, actually, the last two times. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I hope that I have a fantastic experience on my way back the third time recently. But I notice, like, for me, whenever I go, like when I leave Canada, when I'm traveling overseas, it's like I'm right on, I'm in that grid. I'm like good to go. Everything's fantastic. And some people have a harder time going forward, like through time
Mhm.
forward. And then I always feel like it takes me a while when I come back. But these last few times going back to Canada, there's been I'm like, whoa, there's like it's been like a like literally the plane smooth landing, amazing. But then me like landing, I'm like, there's what's going on with this? Like, have you felt that?
Yeah, unfortunately to the disappointment of my mother in a joking way. She would love if I loved being in, Turtle Island, so-called Canada. She would love if I could stay there longer. And it's such a challenging thing because I love my parents and I love the idea of being closer to my friends and the family that's there. But every time I am going back, because I also connect more deeply to land now from the shamanic work and ancestral healing. And I actually just like weep. Like if I start singing to the land, and I mean, I am still, the wounds to me that are still playing out are so fresh. And the fear that's living in that population right now is so high And it feels like it's so challenging to know that so many people I love are in that space or fighting against the current of what is like pulling in that way. And it really, I think there's probably many people who can find their happiness there, but for some reason with the life that I'm charged with, it's just not right. So, yeah, I just said that to my mom even a few weeks ago of like, I thought I was maybe going to be able to go back earlier. I'm going to have to push it for a couple months. And we all agreed, like, my family, we all thought, oh, actually, this is the better decision. Things will be a little more chill. My sister's having a baby. So it's like, maybe wait a few months after she's settled in and they have their own house because it's going to be a real full house. And we didn't know that originally. Anyway, so I was planning all this with them. And I said, I really do like from my mind, from my cognitively, I want to be there with you all for Easter or to celebrate. But I have to admit that like my mental and emotional well-being is better than it's ever been for years because of these decisions to continue like listening to my intuition. So I have to keep trusting that and hope that we just have lots more visits in the future and that you're able to come visit me when I have a home somewhere and that there's all these other ways that we can still connect. Cause yeah, it does feel more and more dense. And I'm not sure if it would still feel that way visiting newer to me areas as well, because I think when you are in a newer to area, like for example, I haven't been out to British Columbia. If I was in British Columbia, would I have then an expansion? Because I do have lots of past clients and friends who are in that area, right? Would I feel a bit of a more of a connection and therefore not as much of the sadness compared to the places I'm used to? It's much easier for me to sense. It brings me back. I don't know if you know this about me. One of my like earlier initiations in life is that I had petit mal seizures. So when I was like in my preteen years, I had these seizures and my brain would just like my consciousness would leave the building and I'd come back, but without any messages. And it was like a time where I was doing a lot of spiritual religious questioning and I was getting bullied quite a lot. So it was like, we had every reason to log off. And it felt like that feeling almost when you come back from a seizure, you're a little foggy, but if you're in a familiar situation, you just pick up where you remember everything. Right. And if you're in a new situation, you jump back into your body, right? Like your spirit comes back online, whoop. And then you go, oh, where am I? I was on a soccer field. I was like a really athletic kid and I was on a soccer field and I was like, hey, head it. Because I wanted to head the ball like into the goal. So cool. Right. And they did it. And I had a seizure like as it was coming to me. And so then it knocked me on the ground. And so I was fine. So I can laugh about it. It was like, but really funny because I woke up and my friends were all like, oh my God, you shouldn't have headed it to the girl who has seizures, you idiot. Like they were all getting mad at each other. And I looked up and I went, how did I get on the ground? Like it was just such a confusing moment because why am I lying in the middle of the soccer field pitch, But if I was having dinner with my parents, at the dinner table, my sister's sitting there, we all sit in our same spots. I'd probably eaten a similar meal before because my mom's cooking and, I know it. So I just go back and eat. My parents would be like, hello, you were in the middle of talking. And I go, whoa, why is everyone yelling at me? Weird. I have no idea that I had even left the building. So anyways, I feel like that with Canada is almost, it feels more and more unfamiliar when I'm going back now. And the energy that is sitting there concerns me greatly, actually, compared to even a few years ago.
It's definitely, I mean, this is a good segue into our forecast, but I feel the way I feel it is every time I come back, I feel like I don't know why the image of the like the fire planes and they're going and bringing water. I feel like every time I'm going back, I'm like bringing the codes and the lightness there. And I'm like, okay, I'm grounding. And then I'm off to the next place. And then I'm bringing the light codes back. Like, I feel like that in some way. So I know that, yeah, I know that light workers here are working overtime. I know that.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of interesting things happening, but yeah, I feel like that's going to continue for it's going to be an interesting time. It's going to be like a heavy for those that may be just awakening and seeing that their world is not quite what it seems, it most likely will be a very unsettling time. But for those that have been awakening for a while, it will be a light. Like I feel like there's a lot of gifts on both sides and a lot of blessings, like obviously in how it all goes down. But I feel like there's a lot of us that are kind of just they're like, oh, this is like, I feel like what was a big one that came up was, I feel like this is the year for the media, the mainstream media. I feel like this is the year that it's, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not going to be here. Maybe it's just, currency is authenticity, right? And people are just questioning and kind of figuring like something's not quite right. Like they don't, maybe their intuition is just coming online and they're like, something feels not quite right. And I feel like a lot of people are just going to be like, kind of like awoken to that. Awoken.
Yeah,
Awoken.
absolutely. Almost like, so what you're saying is you get a sense that the feeling of like distrust in the media and the media system being like unraveling, changing in some radical way, it might be time for that this year.
I feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that it's been going on. I just feel like there's something there's something happening. I have, you know what, I have my notes somewhere, but they're not in front of me. But there's like, there's going to be a bunch of Mandela effects. Like, uh, there's one that actually I just saw yesterday. I know for a fact a few years ago, William Shatner had passed away. And then because my dad actually looks very similar to William Shatner. So I remember being
Right.
like, oh my God, he passed away. And then now I look and he's still alive. So there's some weird like Mandela and like really big glitches that are happening. And so for the
Glitches.
next like month and a bit, for
Mm-hmm.
people that maybe didn't even know, like there's some big glitches happening. So I
Okay.
know that one is like, as we're kind of like settling into where we're supposed to be at. Um the Yeah, there's
I'll
basically
agree
like
to like
from a
the AI thing too, just with media before we leave that topic. Just one quick thought, because I think a lot of people already are quite disillusioned with media now that AI is allowing so many more people to generate so much more. And so like the natural balancing of like an overload of trust in media for so many years is to, oh, I'm raising my hand. That's nice. The overload of information, I think, is causing people to actually have to return to that discernment. So that would be part of what you speak about being like the gift of times like this, right? Is like, yes, we might see media as untrustworthy, or we might see, oh, now we need to think differently about how we're interacting because it's not working for us, or there might be a major shutdown in some way that we don't expect, or there might be a major disclosure that we are suddenly shocked was hidden, right? Like these types of things that media reveals. And at the same
That's what
time,
I
that
thought
is
too, yeah.
awakening. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also
Yeah.
clearly picking up that there's going to be some it's revealing. I really see like the
Yeah.
you know what's cool is so I come from a film background. I think about story a lot and story arcs and things, and the numbers 1 to 9 year really helps me understand based on like a climactic storyline. And number one would be setting up the movie, right? We're just opening scenes. What is this world even like? And that feels like what we're in right now, right?
Wow, that's going back to the observe. That's good because this is a stage. So,
Yep.
what's scene one about?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the movie we're writing as well collectively? That's the opportunity of it as well. Is this,
Yeah.
you can tell in the beginning of a movie, is this going to be a romance? Is this going to be a tragedy? You get the hints.
Yeah. I feel like whatever happens, like there's many potential there's many avenues. But if there's one that say happens quicker, like peeling off the band-aid, it was always supposed to peel off. It just depends how that goes down. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm getting more of like a North American. There's and now for me, I kind of stay away from I I stay away from the news and stuff. I try to, unless I have like, okay, universe, like tell me 3 times by 3 different ways if I'm supposed to know something, and it
Mhm.
always happens that way. It's great, but there's it's it just could be. Yeah, I got as far, I think I was telling you this before, but I got as far as like 6 months, 6 months into it. And there's like, okay, well, there could be some big dismantling things, and like changing of the guard is really kind of the one. But this year, again, the media one is the one that came up.
Mhm.
And that is something that, like, obviously we know is coming, but this year seems to be the year that it's like, okay, there's something big happening there. So we'll
Yeah. And like,
see.
really, no matter where people stand on their feeling, because there might be media lovers in here, and then also people who absolutely detest it. But you found OracleFest and you like listening to these ones, there might be people on all kind of sides of the spectrum. But then that's really true of every issue that we've been dismantling collectively over the, last many years. There's been a lot of different global issues that rise up as a large focal point for us to disassemble some of the things that were remaining from our history of learning. And I don't know, I really prefer in my own, mind, maybe to keep my heart more open. I prefer to think of all people as like innocent, like everyone born very much an innocent baby. And then how we're shaping as our lives go on kind of is yeah, that's what ends up defining us in many ways. And when I look at many people who have a lot of perceived authority, I tend to see their child version of themselves. And holy, there's a lot of tantrums happening this year. Like it just feels like a painful growing stage. And if we are like spiritually aware, maybe we take a more maternal role, no matter our gender or anything, but just like the maternal role of how are we like caring for those around us. And like that in some way, when we are a little more enraged and like flabbergasted and shocked at the absurdity of the violence or density of things happening, that it actually inspires us to simplify and make things more heartfelt on a local scale, and that like creates an
Mm-hmm.
impact. And I think of like war times in the past of or just dense periods of time where people had to come together out of like, I don't know, I have this like tiny, we'll switch back into the forecasting because I don't want to get too derailed here, but I I grew up in a small town south of like a village south of Ottawa, and we had a really really bad ice storm in 1998 where it was like our power was out for 2 weeks plus, and we couldn't. Yeah, so people complaining about things today, I'm like, you don't know, I feel like old grandma being like, you there in 98. I was just a child. I really was, but I was like a wise old child. And I was paying attention to how everyone acted and reacted. And I really regard that as a special time, even though it was like seemingly absolutely destructive. And I knew a lot of the adults were really stressed because, of course, there was a lot of damages and there was a lot of fear on what this was going to look like. And our village couldn't get the services or anything back online because the city was focused on the city. And it had to take time to be able to come out and help some of the smaller areas. And we were the only house on our street that had a wood burning stove. And so we had to make soup on our wood burning stove and have people sit around the fire in our basement and sleep there because their houses were all relying on heat that was provided by electricity that they did not have. Right. So thank goodness we were able to shovel our way out of our house and welcome people in and be able to, we had our own septic tank so we could figure this all out. And I was on candle duty and I lit these candles and I felt like I was bringing like warmth to a tough situation. And I think of this all the time when I think things are going wrong, that it's like, but what can we do to provide like basic care and kindness and compassion to people?
Wow.
So sweet.
That's beautiful. And that's like a foreshadow, I feel like.
I hope so.
Like, no, but it's like, it is. It's like to see that beautiful gift, because that shaped who you are that time, to
Mm-hmm.
who knows like how much, like, in what you're doing because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But people focusing on like the fear and stuff, there was like such a different world there. Like
The
you got
adults were living in a
used
different
to.
world than I was at that time. The
Yeah.
adults were very much focused on what they felt was, not in their control. And I didn't feel I had any control because I was a kid. We don't get control until we're an adult anyway. I'm not allowed that. So all I had to do was light candles and enjoy the soup.
And be the light bringer. That's pretty awesome.
I tried to make everyone happy. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I thought it was inspiring that we could all help each other. And that's a really beautiful thing, and a lot of inventions and innovations and beautiful art comes out of times that people are scared and trying to process everything that they're feeling. So yeah, there is a whole other side to what is happening at the moment. So, okay. So you see the media, there's something that's going to like get ruffled.
Yeah, I see it ruffling. It's funny because when I was writing this down, which is just funny because I don't have it now, which I'm like, it was like, okay, so actually I have a funny story. Because the words that I get for what I'm doing, or say if I'm getting a very specific message, it's always the words they're keys, right? They are all keys. But the messages I get from my clients, or if I'm doing something collectively, before COVID happened, before that happened, before the pandemic happened, there's just this story of two people who were accountants that were kind of like, oh, maybe we're thinking about doing something. They had ideas. They had like, their intuition was like, maybe just, they were pretty young. They were like, just sell everything, like your investments, and get a camper van or whatever. They had this like really radical idea. And then they went, and a friend was like, oh, you should talk to so-and-so. I don't think they'd ever been to a medium or anything. And then they went to the medium, and the medium was like, there is, the world is going through a transformation, or something, like the words that were used. And you guys have decided that you're not going to be a part of this. So you're going to choose your own experience. And there's an idea that you want to get a camper van and go out into the woods. That sounds like a great idea. Like, it's like basically confirmed. And basically it was like, this is going to be fun, blah, blah, blah. They ended up doing that. They sold their house. They went out, and they didn't even know. And their whole experience during COVID at first, they didn't know. But they were like, had we been told a message like, there's going to be this, and like, they're like, we would have gotten toilet paper and all the food, and we never would have left the house, because that message, like, that message is not, like, there's just so much we can do. And so it's like, there's so many beautiful opportunities, right? There's
Absolutely.
so many beautiful opportunities, like community. I feel very strongly that I'm going to be like having my own community with people where we're all kind of, I don't know, maybe living in huts or somewhere off the land, where we're like powered solar panels, and then we're all just this growing our food. Like, who knows where that's going to be. I feel like it's outside of North America, and my personal, that's what I feel. But there's so much opportunity there. And it's just because we've been used to the old systems, which is we're kind of just like doing a little bit of a landscape change or whatever, like a little, and how that unfolds will be, when you look back, you'll be like, oh, okay, it all makes sense. So I feel like if we just like you, like if we focus on that community and that love and that side, it's like, okay, this is the best thing that could possibly happen to people, whatever that looks like. Because yeah.
Well, think of how many people are wanting to put their phones down and wanting to go back to nature, and yet they're not doing it. Like, I hear so many people, like, I trust that this is what you're doing because you're actually already on this path here. But there's a lot of people, I've been seeing it in my personal life recently as well. And it's one of the most tragic and heartbreaking things to me, that people will have a dream and have a vision, and then try and work it out and try and find all the ways it's not going to work, and leave it, and leave it for any stretch of time, because it's just such a tragic idea to me. After since the pandemic, I also was in a van as well during that time, because I felt like I had no choice really but to work online and try to bring not only my own work, but also a basic living until I could bridge my own work into online. Because I wasn't online before the pandemic started. I just started my YouTube in my parents' shed. And I just said that in my call with Carrie Ann a couple hours ago. It was like, truly is like early pandemic, Kate, short hair, trying to read Oracle cards in her parents' backyard shed, because she just really believed that this is like something she still needed to do was do healing work and serve people and try and just try and try and try to do, my own work. I knew that this was it for me. And I went and lived on an alpaca farm for 3 months, just as the pandemic was starting to lift a bit. Yeah, I don't I have a really funny life story, but I lived on an alpaca farm because I knew that I had been on the computer so much and I really deserved to get a flip and break for my brain, my nervous system, my heart. And I would speak to these very gentle animals and I would take care of them every day. There was 85 alpacas. So, at any one given moment, I'm around at least, 10 to 20 in my close vicinity throughout the whole day. I would wake up in the morning and do my hypnotherapy studies. I would go and do my alpaca farm work, which was volunteer exchange, 6 days a week, full days, just so that I could live somewhere that was on nature, that helped me balance my flippin' life. Cause I was like, I just know that there's something more, there's something deeper. Right. And then it was at the end of that stint that I bought the ambulance van that I then lived in and did pet sitting for a year and a half. So that was like the start of really trusting more deeply that I can make a super huge change and somehow it will find a way as long as you're focusing on the feelings that you're having. Because I just knew that being on the computer, even though I was doing really good work for people doing virtual assistant work, like I was helping people I really cared about, and I was also doing psychic chat work, I was like, there's something deeper, there's something more. That's when I started teaching the empath energetics program, was when I was at the alpaca farm, and I had been thinking about it for like months, like at least 8 months. I had been thinking about this idea and it felt so hard to like bring myself up to do it, and when I see people sitting on their dreams, like so much in me just wants to like help them light that fire, like this little candle, help them light the fire, because more and more and more of us doing that during these times is actually going to create a sustainable like community of trusting ourselves versus trusting all the forces outside of ourselves, which is why I care so much about things like OracleFest existing, because it just feels like part of the cure to the ailments that everyone keeps telling me that they have when I see them for healing work, right? Is like, I'm disconnected. I just want to do this big thing with my life. If only I trusted myself. Hey, why don't we make spaces where people are living with land and animals and trusting themselves, and a world where people can be held by community, and not the, humans are going to have human issues, and a lot of communities struggle with, they want it to be a perfect love light, but
you hit the nail on the head with like people try to talk themselves out of their dream, but they've had this dream, like it's almost like that was like, here's like a little key, like go, and it's like, okay, well, but this, and so there's a lot of unraveling, and so however like the message that I get over and over again, it's like you anybody can smile at someone and that could literally change their life in some capacity, right? Just a simple smile could change someone's life. And so then, okay, let's go a step further. Like, how can you help? Like it's just like, maybe, how when you're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Okay, universe, give me a sign. And then all of a sudden someone walks down the street and says exactly what you need to hear. It's like those divine moments are those like the magic everywhere. And in the way that we've been like, in the way that our 3D landscape works, it's like trying to shut out those amazing gifts, and like just by finding you, like people that are organizing events like this, right? It's really like, okay, here's the sparks, here's this, you can do anything, like, and with the purpose, with the love, and like there's a deep, there's just so much there, like there's just, it's like, here you go, there's so much that you can do. And people are noticing that. So it's just about like, it's almost like putting, when you put your intention into water, or like even if say you're having a bath and you're like, okay, this is my mission, I'm sending this water out to the bath and out to the world. Like there's just so much of that, and like making, like, where I'm going with this. It's like there's so much that can be done when we realize that we have the power, like taking our power back. And so it's like you just need that little spark, and then everybody can just go, and that's like what the community building is. And so I mean, I'm here for it all, you
Right?
know?
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited for OracleFest and for diving deeper into the connections. And then also, again, like, I just think from 10 years, imagine 10 years from now, like you building the community online, offline, and then we're all just living in like a community together offline,
So
living
by the
our
way, they're going to be
Oracle
called
Fest.
Oracle Nests, Oracle Rest, Oracle Nest. These are all subsects that have come through to me, which I love. Like imagine we all have these little pods and we actually value the intuitive mind of every person. So this is actually an interesting, I have two things that I like. Okay. So the first one is I had this, thought of wouldn't it be so beautiful if we had a collective calendar of all the voices who listen to Oracle Fest, not just the speakers, but like any attendee who wishes to give us insights to what they are feeling for March, April, May, and onward, right? Because I too, at the beginning of this year, was actually struggling to receive past certain points about certain subjects. And those gaps might happen just because it's not for me to bring through. And there could be someone in our field, in our sphere, who senses something, and there could be 5 other thoughts that help contextualize that for us. And then we have this powerful oracle voice that's really intuitively led that gives us like insights on what our collective feels like month by month. So I've already started this. People can sign up for the collective Omen calendar. They can fill in the form. And then month by month, I'll include. So hopefully as we grow, as the year goes on, I'll be able to receive more and more of like, this is now what we feel August is about with all our various messages. And we each have our own individual one. So you don't have to listen to ours as the one overall, but it's a collective voice and actually valuing the modern day oracle wherever they are, whether they're doing this work professionally or not, still having a very clear insight and intuition as to what's happening, because actually they have more information being in other spheres rather than only being in this lens of looking at things. How cool,
That's
right?
beautiful. That is
I know.
cool. Yeah,
So
because
cool.
it's the same. It's the same. I was like, yeah, it's not meant because I tried a few. Usually, like it's like pretty easy if I meant to, but I'm like, no, I could not get past the 6 months. So I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, there it is.
Yeah.
And
I
now
have
it's
like,
just funny because I don't even have the book with me, but so
no,
it is what it is. We're just talking about what we're meant to talk about.
absolutely. And it is interesting. I mean, now I'm going to tell you, go and load your first 6 months into the collective omen calendar so I can include it because that's awesome.
I will.
And
Yeah.
but that's the thing too, is kind of I'll get maybe my personal lens, but struggle with certain world things. Sometimes it's because I'm not part of that, right? But other people might be a part of that, whatever that thing is, right? And
Yeah.
so it might be that we focus kind of really on our own journey for certain stretches as something else happens really big in the outer sphere. But all of it's useful. All of it's like beneficial. If I know the energy of the energy of December, for example, I knew that there was going to be like a lot of grief, and a lot of my clients came through with grief, and there was like more deaths around in general and more just decay and falling away of things than people normally like to have in December when it's holiday season and all these things. And just to have that heads up, I wasn't particularly going through an immense grief, subtle maybe, of my own, letting go of fears and leaving Scotland behind for a stretch, which is always a little challenging on my heart. I was okay, hopefully I'm back and it's this way when I come back, and all those, but certainly not to the level that my clients were feeling. So sometimes it's just helpful to know what everyone else might be going through, whether you are directly a part of that or not as well. And I certainly sense that we are right now in a particularly precarious and dense time, and that in February we do actually have some lifting by the mid and end of it, that there's a lot of like the people who are like, actually, I don't want that to be my story, are going to have like a super big surge of energy in that time. You're going to India, so I would not be surprised at all if you have a big surge of energy that you're planning for, basically going into that. I'm going to LA, and I've never been to LA, and bringing back the film part of me. That's very interesting to like, whoof, that might be a big expansion, right? And I think if you're open to it, that opportunity is there amidst higher rising, like February feels to me like it's raising higher. And so you choose whether that's chaotic and unstable or expansive and enlightening. And that's going to be maybe hard for some people to discern, which is why again, events and experiences like this are so key because it helps you keep listening to that part of you that knows better. Just like those folks with, the accountants with the camper van. Like, it's like, I don't know why, we just did it. And the I don't know whys, it's like, you didn't need to, man. You did not need to know why. You just needed to do it.
Yeah, then that's the other thing too. Like the more we go back and because the programs of the mind are just the programs of the mind. Like we're really just meant to lead from the heart. And so I don't know why. Well, your heart knew. You knew. You absolutely did, but your mind doesn't know. Maybe your mind wasn't meant to know. But you know,
Absolutely.
you feel an overwhelming sense that you need to do something. Um yeah, so that's like that is that perfect example. I do like monthly forecasts. Like I post monthly forecasts and I always it's always interesting because I get the forecast and there's usually a certain time where it's like pause. This is the time to pause and breathe. I'm like, okay, well, I know there's something going on there. Got it. Thank you. And then but it's
Yes.
never anything like, oh, there's something like some catastrophe is gonna, the words are always just like, okay, this is gentle. This is nice.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it is what I did get last year though. I started getting, I think it was more so in the summer, which I do find very interesting because there was a friend of mine that also got the same message at on a monthly basis, and I started putting these in my posts, like plan 3, 6, 9 months out, which means so I started doing that, and then it was like, okay, so obviously 3, 6, 9, let's keep going through the next year. So we know that there's something, but we planned. We've taken a peek. Like there was one month, I'm not going to say what month it is, but it was like wrap the month up in whatever something, and I was like, ooh, okay, all right, cool. So, so it's just kind of like just you can do that with your intention too. Like you can almost just be like, okay, for my highest expression, for my highest alignment, I'm going to go out 3, 6, 9 months. It's also a beautiful code key. And just know that wherever I am, whatever it is, it's going to be amazing. And then just have that intention there. Because a lot of us, when we're kind of looking to the future already, we've had this notion of being like, when we're thinking about the future, it's more of like like I think it's more of like an anxious feeling, like for many, like because it's like, oh, the unknown. Well, actually, we're living in the unknown. We just think that we know what's happening, right? So I think that one's a really good one to just know that wherever, like if you, some people already have that feeling, but for anybody that kind of has a little bit of a worry when they're thinking about their future, um, I highly recommend just like starting that. It's like it's a good little reframe too, a shift in that.
Mhm.
Just knowing that wherever, just by setting that intention, like your higher self has gone out 3, 6, 9, and they're like, got it, got it, got it. Oh, maybe there's something that we need to do. Well, we got the heads up. We're gonna it'll all be navigated, right?
Yeah. And I love what you're saying here so much. I almost want to like extra repeat it that it's also about like making that choice, like that you're setting that intention. That's you making a choice that this is how it's like it's going to go well. You play out the best version of how it all does work well, and then you keep looking and living towards that as your aim. Not to say that you don't accept when things feel like they're going like awry, because that is a part of the process. But I think a lot of people also look towards the future. I'm quite comfortable in the future. That's naturally why I'm doing psychic and oracle work, because I enjoy. I mean, my friends always like, "Oh, you're always 5 years ahead, Kate," and it's not a problem for me to, but I'm very flexible. I'm very adaptable. And I'm willing to be really impressed by outdating the last version of what I thought into the better version that has appeared now that I'm ready. Right. And so if we expect that the best is going to happen and maybe we fall a little bit short of that and we get 80% of the best, it's probably better than had we not intended anything at all and accepted everything as it came and didn't actually put that thought forward, because our thoughts are creating so much of what we experience. So many people know that, but to click on, wait, I could just choose. It doesn't have to show me first. It actually won't show you first. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't show you, right? You see it as you've chosen, as you go. And that's a very exciting thought if someone is ready for their life to take a turn for the lighter, the better, or the more fulfilling in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well said. Well said.
Are there any other feelings or things that that you sense might be important to include in this chat for if anyone's listening to all of our fun stories and also predictions?
The, the intuition one is huge this year. like like I know I've caught myself a few times being like, what am I doing? I've never done. Oh, I'm like, all right, well, I obviously know I'm doing something. So then I just stop the mind because you know what it is? You know, but usually the mind is like not like it's so it's like if you feel like the intuition, if you all of a sudden are like something completely out of the blue that's not like you, but you feel it deeply, like follow that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's this year is the one to be like, no, we're gonna reframe whatever is up here. like that's we're reframing that, and we're going to focus here. So there might be times where you could even put like a sticky note or like a post-it note somewhere where it's like down to the heart, down to the heart, because it's like it's a training. But there might be some like really interesting intuition things where you're like, and you're like, oh, I should have listened to that. like if you've gotten a message and you're like, oh, you actually wrote a post. I think it was a post that
I've had so
that
many of
popped.
those, Kirstie. I don't think I could do this work if I hadn't been like amazed and shocked and disappointed many times by the not following and how that appears. Um, and
Yeah.
it's funny. It's like a funny joke sometimes, but it gets easier and easier the more that you do it. So for the people who are just starting out, or the people who feel like they've lost their way a little bit and their intuition got quieter and they don't know what happened, it's like literally the repetition and the little moments are exactly how that all adds up again.
Yeah, it's like a muscle. Like it's
Yeah.
like once you because the first time, like I'll give you a random example, but I'd just been like setting up my place in Thailand and I got these knives and I just was like I'll get knives like better. I just got like a pack of knives because I needed to cut. I was in the kitchen cutting like some vegetables. I just like gotten these knives and I heard very clearly like you should go sit down. Like I heard it. I heard it. And then my body was like, yeah, you should, like I felt my body wanting to stop like cutting. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I have food to make. I'm going to make my food. The next cut that I did, I sliced my finger because it was actually the top of the blade. Like I cut it with the top of the blade because they were just like cheap knives and
Yeah.
they
And
were actually
fresh
too
and
thin.
right.
They were too thin at the top, which I'd never seen the
Right.
top being like, it could have been like a two sided knife, but it wasn't. But I had put so much weight. I was cutting like a thing of broccoli and I put so much weight on it.
It
It
went through.
sliced it. And I was like, I'm going to go sit down. And I was like, man, and now if it's something super, because I was like, I don't need to, like, if it's something super random like that, I'm like, I am like, it's never been that same exact, but I'm like, I am stopping
Listening.
and
Yep.
I am listening. Like, if all of a sudden
Yes.
right now it'd be like, go outside right now, I'd be like,
We're done
okay.
our call. Yeah.
like, yeah,
Nice to
yeah.
see you,
You know
Kate.
what I
End it
mean?
on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
you know what's
that's,
great? I would respect that. And you need people in your life who would respect you listening to that, right? Like I was going to go home. I had planned to go home to Ontario, not home, but to visit friends and family in between some stretch of my journey. And then it was like so obvious, like you're staying. You need to be in California. You're staying, you're staying, you're staying. And I was like, but no one's going to like that but me, and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I like this plan. And it was the most obvious thing. I said, okay, well, I'll open it up. If I'm meant to stay, then the opportunity will be obvious. It'll show me where I'm meant to go. The next day, I meet a fellow OracleFest speaker, and she's like, you should come visit my place in California. Oh, wow, that's an interesting sign. Well, I'll wait for another. And
yeah,
then I
I
think,
know. Oh, give me three. give me is that I know people that get those signs. They're like, oh, give me a sign, and then they got one. They're like, give me another one. And they get
yeah,
another. Then they get like five. They're like, okay, okay, okay. Yeah. Well, that was with me with Thailand. I was only
yeah.
supposed to be there like a week and a half, and then I
Oh,
just heard
really?
stay, and then everything aligned, and then
Yeah,
I ended up staying for like, gosh, it was like over a year and a half. Like, and
yeah,
it just happened. And so it's funny because even all the planning that we try to do, it's like, okay, you planned it, throw that out the window. Maybe it stays, maybe it doesn't. But like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And usually we have more resistance when we're worried about external factors and not internal factors. Because when we listen to that higher heart, right, going back to that concept, when we listen to that, I mean, I play out one timeline where I stay and then one timeline where I go back. And one timeline where I go back is a lot of pressure and it was a lot of doubt and it was a lot of clenching in my body. And the other one felt, well, this is fun. I like California. I think I'm going to meet some cool people there. How nice, and it was so gentle and open. And I thought, oh, that made my decision for me. Now I need to go, make it in the real world. And I think if more people slowed down to receive, to listen to their inner oracle, which is exactly why we get together, why we met, why we do these things, if more people listen to that, the better off we all are. Because actually all my friends and family are really happy and agree with my decision and have no issue, because all of them are meant to be in my life and they care that I'm doing what I need to do. And same with me to them, and it's a good filter also for who belongs in your life. There's those people who can respect and understand when you're following those calls. Like when you went to Thailand, you probably had to change a whole bunch to make life work there, but it was so obvious that was needed, at the time. Everyone just had to get on board, and it's really not about them. It's about you and your own precious life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's perfectly well said. No, so I'm like, no, I'm definitely coming back from India, but you'll never know where I'm going after that.
Yeah,
it's a whole new world.
It is. You know what's so funny? You say a whole new world, because when you were talking about like the sticky note and drop into your heart, it was like choose your story, right? That these narratives we used to hold, they're all going out the window anyway. You might as well really toss them out, whatever you find, old stories, old narratives, old boxes you thought you were supposed to fit into, stuff you thought you were comfortable with or used to, suddenly is going to be real uncomfortable, folks. It's not going to feel as cozy. Carrie Ann was talking about this because she works her own business. And then of course, now she's feeling called to be doing more of her spiritual work. And she's really so skilled and gifted so naturally in doing this that it's like, uh-oh, now what? That thing that really was a comfortable thought and she didn't have any, big problems, suddenly starts to grate in different ways and is asking for shifting, and doesn't necessarily mean someone gives up everything and travels like you or I do, because we have the choice and freedom. That's our lives. But it is sometimes really radical and big shifts that we're getting asked to make. But yeah, playing those timelines out of like, which story actually feels better, which one, and follow the feelings, and trust the process. Mm-hmm.
Follow the feeling and not the mind. And then also breathe into it, because there's so many wonderful things that are happening, and then it's like choose your own adventure.
It is choose your own adventure. I love that. Well, maybe you and I ought to sit for an Oracle Mountain chat in a few months and do another like catch up check-in on reading what's ahead. If you feel called, you just call me up, because I think it would be helpful. And this year we might need a few more of these kinds of chats with different people to sort of really get a sense and collectively come together and process what's happening as well. We process along community, right? We process together, nourish each other.
Yeah, I'm feeling March is when we're going to be chatting.
I was hoping it'd be March. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Maybe, I think we might even be chatting. Maybe we're chatting in person, maybe not. But I feel like March
maybe we've got a car dash cam,
on the go.
Yeah.
On the go. Yeah. No, I feel like that's a good check-in time for sure.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Well, we look forward to seeing you first at the big OracleFest online, doing some activation work. And so if you resonate with Kirstie's vibe, which I know if you're here at this point in the video, you obviously do, then please go get your ticket, come join us in the special sacred field, the virtual space of Oracle Mountain. And the more people attend is also the faster we're able to get to in-person events and really holding each other in space, and maybe doing some radical, what if we all held hands and thought about the same beautiful, loving energy at the same time? What kind of impact would that make in the world? These fun, like, let's be viral for good change in the world from a heart and spirit place, right? That would be so great. So anyways, it's such a pleasure and such a joy to have you. And in March, hopefully we'll time it right that you can chat about your shadow work, because of course, with all this bright light you've got, we got to entertain the other side in order to complete the circle. And so if you want to share a little bit about that, give people a little teaser heads up. But
Yeah, I'm going to be so I have a few different workshops that I have on my website now. Activate from Within is a 12-week workshop, and this year I do about 1 to 2 workshops a year. And this year I was guided to really focus on teaching people on the shadow side and how to for best protocols on how to clear and dive deeper and to know, you know, it's actually really positive and also ways that you can get a heads up and stuff in your experiences and just how to do that for your highest alignment, because a lot of people can sometimes get stuck in that too. Like we're going, like I do big activations as well, and my courses, they help to navigate the shadow. Like there's journal prompts and stuff, and there's recommendations, but this one's really going to dive deeper into it so that you can do it going forward. Because when you awaken and you upgrade, you need to shed and you need to clear out the densities that are no longer able to stay with you, and that looks different for many people. It depends, everybody's on their own journey, and everybody has had a lot of different journeys that have led them to where they are. So sometimes it's heavier, sometimes it's lighter, but it's tools to navigate and learn how to dive deeper. So and for right now, that's a lot of people are waking up as well, and so it's like learning how to navigate that as well for their highest alignment. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be in like mid-March.
beautiful.
Yeah. So
So if you're someone who's been getting lots of upgrades and updates and shaking things up and feeling super expansive, and then suddenly feeling like you're crashing to the ground and everything just fell apart and, feels chaotic or dense, or maybe you go through, sometimes they call it like spiritual flu or things like that, after these big openings, there's sort of a process right after. And I think if you're looking to make that more gentle or at least understandable in the moment, that would be a really amazing thing to go focus on, is this shadow work, right? Like this, how do we process after big, we have equal and opposite reactions. And so we want to care and, nurture and understand more deeply what's happening in those seemingly low points.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us today. And we're going to be seeing more of you at the big OracleFest online. I'm so excited for it. Of course, we'll have you back in March if that works for the Oracle Mountain Chat, and then at some podium event throughout the year as well. I'm sure we'll be seeing you again for another activation. They're always so good and experiential, so perfect for us. So thank you for being here and for being part of this whole big vision.
Thank you for having me, and I'll see you next time.